All right. Thanks for joining this live. This stream actually. So this live. Anyway, I just want to welcome you all to this. One of the things I'll say is that I don't do this live often. So if you see me a little bit all over the place, I'm trying to figure out the setup and things like that. So I hope that you can hear me wherever you are if you are joining this live. And of course, please don't forget to drop a like on it. Don't forget to subscribe if you are somebody who's new. Now, one thing I want to say is that, I am somebody who loves the idea of investing in one's abilities, and of course, investing in one's potential. So if you are somebody like that, I'm sure you benefit a lot from this channel. So one of the things I would like to start with is this. When I started this channel, I remember starting my journey as a new, an immigrant in the country, trying to figure out things. And honestly, I just didn't have anyone to show me the way and maybe explain some things to me in a way that I can easily understand. You have to also realize that as an investor or as an immigrant, you are new in an environment where there's a lot of new information, right? I came here when I was 21 to the United States, to be specific, and there were a lot of things that one had to learn all over again. And honestly, just being in that process puts you in a place that it humbles you. It puts you in a place where it makes you realize that there are a lot of things that you didn't know. At least I didn't know when I came here, and trying to build wealth, trying to save, trying to invest, you realize that, man, there are tons of things I didn't know. So I put my effort into learning these things that I now talk about on this channel. And it's helped me to get to a point where I'm not retired. So I'm not going to say I'm retired, but I'm fortunate to be in the position that I'm in. Let me put it that way. So all I'm trying to get to now is how can I then put this information in front of those that are like me, or people who are trying to just find information like the ones that helped me at the beginning. And I would say that it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of grit, it takes a lot of tenacity and just confidence to be able to do what I'm doing. And honestly, it's not easy. I would say that. But I enjoy the journey. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the people I get to meet. I enjoy the fact that some people would leave comments and, oh, thanks for the help and things like that. So all I'm trying to get to now is, hey, if you can take a bit of information from this channel, please feel free to do so. This is something that has helped me, and it's still helping me in my own journey financially. And I'm not the type of person who wants to preach, early retirement, and that's the truth. I'm not trying to preach early retirement. I'm not trying to preach, retire as soon as possible, because I enjoy what I do for a living. I enjoy my job. But one thing my job has also given me the ability to do is to be able to invest and save and let your money grow, because at the end of the day, if you cut back on your expenses and you make more than you spend, and you then put the difference in something that grows, whether it's in yourself, it's in the stock market, it's in gold, whatever type of investment, real estate, cryptocurrency, whatever it's, you pick your poison, right? Or, well, you pick what you choose to invest in. So once I realize the things that I enjoy doing, which really revolves around investing in general, whether it's in myself or it's in the stock market or it's in real estate, whatever, right? I try to acquire in as much knowledge as I can. I've done courses in the past. I've taken classes in the past. I've many YouTube videos, right? Of course, YouTube University, that is free, thank God, right? So there's tons of information online, and I hope that you just benefit from this channel as well. So to cut to the chase, right? The topic for today, or this title for the video, is "Don't make these mistakes when investing." And the reason why I've picked this topic for today, or this title, really, is that, you see, we all have goals. We all have things we're striving towards. We all have things that we're trying to achieve. And the world, right, especially in the world we live in, where, if you go on YouTube, you go on Instagram, everybody tries to show you how they're living life and how quickly they've made some money, and how young they are. And then you compare yourself, right? You're like, oh man, this person has made this much money by this age. Oh, I've passed this age and I haven't made half of what the person has made. Or how can I get there as quickly? and as soon as possible. Well, uh, life doesn't work that way. There's a saying in my language. I'm originally from Nigeria, for those who may not know, and it says "Mafagwala go shishe," right? And what that means is that if you're looking at somebody else's time frame or timeline to determine the amount of progress you can make, and you're comparing that timeline to someone else's timeline, then I think you're doing it wrong. You're doing it the wrong way, because at the end of the day, see, this life, we all came to this life in a way that we've been, honestly, right, we have our own timeline, right? And you cannot work on someone else's timeline. But there's something you can do, and that is you can acquire knowledge while you can, right? While we have functioning brains and the ability to do so. You can acquire skills while you can, right? You can acquire a lot of training. You can acquire just a ton of things that would make you a better person. And that will speed up the process for you. So just because somebody started, let's say, drop shipping last week and now they've made so much money, doesn't mean that if you started now, you're going to make money, right? Just because someone else made money in the stock market in 2 days and they made $10,000 doesn't mean that you will do the same things and make money. It's something that we all need to understand. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try, right? That doesn't mean that we shouldn't take chances or take risks, but we just have to stop the comparison, because that will really it will mess you with your mind, mess with your confidence, mess with your abilities, and make you screw up. And that leads me to my first point that a lot of people make, which is, you compare yourself to other people, right? And you want to achieve the same things they've achieved within the time frame that they've done it. Then that puts a lot of pressure on you to achieve that same thing, maybe even faster. And guess what? You take unnecessary risks, you take unnecessary steps, you try to cut corners, you do things that that you shouldn't do, and that ends up leading to disaster at the end of the day. Now, there's a particular stock that I'm looking at right now. Let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, this is something that I want to use as a reference point. Let's see. Yep, that's it right there. That's Palantir. For those of you who may be invested in Palantir, or who may own the stock, or you may not even own the stock, right? This is a particular stock that I can't remember exactly how I got introduced to this company, but I found out there was a lot of hype around it as well. And of course, the stock has made a lot of gains over the past, I would say, couple of months. When I first found this particular company, it was around $13 or so, and I remember I bought like 10 or something like that, just because I'm like, But then as time went on, I added more to the position, and at no point did I own more than 50 shares of this company. And of course, as it went higher, right, it got to like $40-something per share. I sold. Okay, I sold some of it. Now, not everything. Maybe I sold I think I sold from like 40 something. I sold it down to like 10. All right, because I'm like, I don't trust this. But guess what? It kept going up. Now, on my part, okay, I feel like this wasn't a mistake. This was something that I felt comfortable selling. You have to understand that when it comes to some of these investments, right, the goal is not to take one ride to the promised land. And that is this leads to my second point, okay? The goal, I'm going to repeat that. The goal isn't to take one ride to the promised land. Here's the mistake that a lot of people make. You want to, and this reminds me of somebody that I've seen in the past on, I believe it's on YouTube. People take risks, okay? And you put all your eggs in one basket. Now, this particular basket, this Palantir that I'm talking about and using as a point right now, as a case reference, I can easily say, oh man, I shouldn't have sold. I should have just kept my 50 shares and held on up until now. But that's because it's working out. And of course, hindsight is 2020, right? Like they say. And if I'd kept on to these shares right now, I would have, the amount of money I would have made is not enough for me to retire on, okay? And that is something that a lot of people need to understand. A lot of times, you want to take this risk, okay? And then you put in so much money including the money that you're not supposed to put into this market, believing that, yeah, this thing would go higher. And yes, it may go higher. And in fact, you may make a lot of money from it. But that habit that it instills in you is what gets you the following go around or the following investment that you make. So let me explain what I mean. You're going into an investment thinking, hey, if I put money into this thing, if I go big on it, considering there was a lot of hype about this particular Palantir. This is Palantir for those who may not know, right? For this particular investment, assuming I put in, let's say, $10,000 into it, and now it's way up here. Well, I've literally, at the time when I first saw this company, I think it was like $13, like I said. So up until what it is right now, I've 10 times my money, almost 10 times my money, right? So imagine I put in $10,000 at this point, okay, when I first saw it at $13, and now it's almost at $130, right? Then I've made, close to $130,000 in some sense, right? So the point now is, I could do that and make a lot of money, and someone else will see that and say, oh man, this guy made a lot of money, he's a genius or whatever, right? But what that instills in me as an investor, which leads to my second point that people make, is it instills in you that, hey, go big or go home mentality. And you see that mentality, in as much as it is good when it works, it is also what kills a lot of investment portfolio or new investors or people who just take risk thinking you have to go big in order to make money. Now, there's nothing wrong with going big, but make sure it is a small percentage of what you can afford to lose. I hope this makes sense. So what I'm trying to say is this, right? There's nothing wrong with going big, but make sure it's a small percentage of what you can afford to lose, because you go big and if it doesn't go in your favor, you may not be able to recover from it. This particular company that I'm talking about happens to be one that, hey, in hindsight, I should have kept it. I should have just let it ride. Now, like I said, I didn't sell everything. I still own some shares of Palantir till now, right? But I don't own as much as I did. And as we speak right now, I've set a stop loss. All right, a trailing stop loss to be specific. If you don't know what that means, just go on Google, type in trailing stop loss. But in short, or in a nutshell, what it is if this stock comes down by say 10% or 15%, whatever number you choose to set, it comes down below the highest point, like today now it's around 123.37. If it comes down by, let's say, 10% of that amount, then it executes a sell order, and I'm willing to sell everything of Palantir, right? That is just me. Now, the truth is, some people may be willing to hold on, and even if it drops 20%, 30%, they're willing to hold on. Sure, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that if that is what you're comfortable doing. But one thing that I want you to realize is that you don't take one boat or you don't take one stock to the promised land. And what do I mean by promised land? You see, a lot of times we're looking for financial freedom. We're looking for, that one thing that would make us rich. And in reality, people would say, oh, focus on one thing. And that is good because you don't have a lot of energy to distribute into many things within a 24-hour period, right? So they may say, focus on one thing. But when it comes to an investment, focusing on one thing is generally what leads to failure. That generally what leads to crash and burn, because you have put in so much money in this one thing and you're counting on it working. And if it doesn't work, guess what? You lose a lot of money. Now, let's just assume that it works. Can you repeat it? That is the question. So, like, back to the example I gave. Let's assume that I put in, say, somewhere here, right? I think it was right here. May need to go back out. But let's just say somewhere here, right? You bought some shares, put in like 10 grand, right? And then you've held on, you know, despite all this erratic movement and all, you've held on to it. And now it's up here. At what point do you want to either take your gains or reduce your exposure? Because if you put in 10 grand somewhere here, now you have, close to $80,000 or so. At what point do you reduce your exposure? Because again, a lot of times, because this has been going well, right? People want to even double down, either add more money, right, to it and increase their position and things like that. And again, it may work. But the next time you find yourself, because Palantir will not go up forever. I mean, unless it's like Netflix. Netflix has been going up a lot. But the point I'm trying to make is don't take excessive risk, right? If you feel like you've made money from something to a point where you feel, okay, I've reached my target. If my target is 10% increase, if my target is 20% increase, if your target is 50%, don't be too greedy. Take some of that money off the table. Now, you have to understand that there's taxes, and that leads to my third point, all right? Taxes. Now, in one of the videos that I made recently, somebody asked, can I talk about taxes? And I said to myself, would I want to make a video on taxes, right? Would I want to talk about, just to check something real quick here. Would I want to talk about taxes? Why? Because I'm not a tax professional. I am not, and I'm not trying to come here like I am. But one of the things that I'll say is, when it comes to the government will take its cut, right? Uncle Sam will always take its cut. So, if you invest and you make gains, you will pay capital gains. Whether it's in real estate, whether it's in stock market, you will pay capital gains, and you have some tax breaks depending on the type of investment, depending on the type of fund you invest in. There are some ways in which you can save on taxes. So, for example, ETFs are treated slightly different on the way they're taxed compared to, let's say, mutual funds and index funds, right? Depending on how the fund itself is managed. Then you also have single stocks. Let's say you bought Palantir when it was, $10, and now you're selling at $123 or whatever. You pick up the gains on it. Now, for single stocks of companies like this one, Palantir, for example, if you sell and you make gains, you will pay either the short-term capital gains or long-term capital gains. So you would have to choose, maybe strategically choose when you want to sell, because short-term capital gains are generally higher than long-term capital gains. And, depending on your income level, all of that stuff, right? It's favored that you do long-term type of capital gain. So that means you hold more than a year. That's what that refers to. Hold the stocks for more than a year, then sell. So if you held, say, Palantir for more than a year and you choose to sell, well, you may just have to pay the long-term capital gains tax on it, which is usually more favorable. On the other hand, if you held these stocks in, let's say, a Roth account, a retirement account, any type of retirement account, and you're able to hold single stocks in it, if you sell, well, technically you don't have to pay taxes on it as long as you haven't withdrawn that money. So we can get into all of that type of conversation, and it gets a little complicated, okay? But one thing I want to point out to is, since we're focusing on the mistakes new investors make, beginner investors make, if you're new to investing and you're trying to understand the kind of mistakes to avoid, understand that when you sell, you pay taxes, and that taxes can, depending on how much you invest, depending on how much you made on it, depending on how long you held it for, depending on how the investment is structured, whether it's in a retirement account, a brokerage account, it will be taxed differently. So the point here is, I would defer to say maybe to the tax professional to help you on that. Maybe do a Google research or go on Google. And with AI nowadays, honestly, it goes a long way in helping you. Now, if you're finding value in this one, if you're joining for the first time, please don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way. And let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And by the way, I don't have my chat on. I guess that's a rookie mistake, right? But let's continue with the next one. All right. The next one, or the next mistake that I believe people make, not that I believe, that people make actually, is to believe they are geniuses. Okay. Here's what I mean. All right. A lot of times people would see a particular company, You fall in love with the company, and then you're like, you know what? I'm going to go all in. Similar to going big as well. Like you see this investment that you like, and you're like, man, I'm just going to put all my money into it. For this particular one, it's more about a company that you love. And for example, we all love Apple, right? We all love our Samsung, for example. If you're the Samsung type Android, we all love, for ladies, for example, maybe it's some bag, some brand, maybe it's Lululemon, whether it's Nike. Yeah, you fall in love with these companies and you're like, man, another big one that people do, right? The stock of the company you work for, especially if you're very passionate about a company. The next thing you do is what? You put all your money into this particular stocks or into this particular investment because you believe that this is going to take you to the promised land. And I'm using the promised land as an example for those of you who know the story of Moses in the Bible, right? Leading his people to the promised land, right? The point here is you can't do that. Why? The reason why you can't do that is because putting all your money into a stock of a company that you work for is a big no-no. Have you heard about Enron? And there's so many companies from, I would say, the late 2000s, right? The dot-com bubble. You had people put all their retirement funds or money into the stocks of the company they work for. Now, talk about loving a company that you work for the company, right? And then you then bought all the shares for that company. So you literally, it's like, excuse me. It's like you get in a boat, right? You don't know how to really navigate the waters. But guess what? You load your family members into the boat. You're not again capable of swimming pretty well. You can't even really save yourself. And then you pretty much take yourself to the ocean and try to figure it out, right? That is the kind of risk you're taking. And you're not even staying close to the shores. You put yourself way in the deep because you believe that being in the deep is where the money is, right? So you go all in, all out, away from the shores, and you lose sight of the reference of land. So you have no idea where your north or south is or your east or west is, right? This is a similar analogy to people would do this where they would buy stocks of a company that they work for and then they go all in, they put thousands and thousands of their retirement funds into this type of account. And you don't want to do that. And the reason why they did it back then, just to give you some background information, the reason why they did it back then was because those companies claimed to be making so much money, right? So the stocks were just skyrocketing back then, dot-com bubble. I'm sure everybody knows that, at least if you're around then. And all these employees were like, hey, my stocks isn't doing well in this particular fund that nobody knows about. This company is the next big thing that I work for, fortunately, and we're making tons of money because our CEO said it, not knowing that a lot of sketchy things were being done in the background, right? Where people were manipulating numbers and, literally just faking the numbers. And what happened was what? All these people, when everything came crashing down, they lost their money, they lost their jobs, they lost their income, and some of them actually lost their lives, right? Because the risk was just so excessive that everything depended on it. Everything depended on that single company working out. If you find yourself in this, right? And people still do this till today, but we just do it in a slightly different way. And that is what we call, I guess, YOLO, right? You only live once and then you put all your money into this one thing. And this reminds me of this particular guy on YouTube. I remember he invested, I'm sure if you guys are following like someone like Graham Stephan, he brought this guy on his show. I've forgotten the guy's name, but Doge Millionaire or something like that. I can't remember his name now. But what the guy did was back in the crypto boom, I think 2020, 21, somewhere there, when this Doge was really skyrocketing, and this guy decided to put like, can't remember how much, $30,000, $40,000, maybe $50,000 into Doge. And guess what? Doge went all the way up to well, at the time, he made almost $1 million plus, right? And he didn't sell. He didn't de-risk, right? He didn't reduce his exposure to that type of environment where, you could go up and come down. Long story short, the thing came crashing down, and I don't even know. Nobody knows where the guy is. At least I don't know. I don't follow him in the first place. But the point here is this, right? You don't take on excessive risk. Don't take on excessive risk. You take on excessive risks, it blows your account, it blows your investment, it discourages you, and sometimes put an end to your investment journey because you've taken so much risks. And that's not what you want to do. It is best you do this in a way that reduces much of your exposure, especially if you are putting all the money you have into it. And that is something that I would always say, don't put all your money into investments. Don't put all your money into investment. Investments are things that today they are up, tomorrow they are down. A good example is this guy here, Palente. Even though it's been a great one, right? But here we are. Let me delete this. Right? Here we are. We have a lot of volatility, right? Especially this was June 2nd, just for those who may not know, right? June 2nd, and then of course I said June, not June, April. Actually, I take it back. This was, let's see, Wednesday, February 25. Yep. So this was February. All right. And of course, got that big sell-off, and now we're making the recovery. So this is working out for those who may have held on and not sell. And again, I didn't sell. Well, I sold some of it a long time ago. Maybe around $70, I think somewhere here was when I sold some of it. Talking about this, let me look at something real quick. Just want to see where Apple is right now, because Apple has been falling today. One day. Yeah, 204. Yeah, it's been coming down. Well, anyway, back to what I'm saying. So the point here is you don't want to take on excessive risk. That's the bottom line of this. Now, if you've stayed up until this point, I've covered three major points. All right, three major things that you want to avoid. The last but not least, all right, which is the last one I'm going to end with, this one, is don't put yourself in a situation where you have to sell in order to get your money out. You have to sell to get your money out. What do I mean by that? Now, a lot of people will put their money in an investment knowing that they need that money, or they will need that money soon. Or they can find themselves in a situation where they need that money because maybe they took their emergency fund, or they took money that they're supposed to use to pay their bills. They put it in a sale in a company that is on a discount, right? And hoping that within a few weeks or a few days, they can turn around and sell those investments and get their money out. When in reality, things can change. Like literally, we can have a headline that will turn all of this stuff. If I go to like the SPX, let's go to the index itself, right? Today has been great, right? Just to show what I'm talking about. Today has been great for the S&P 500, SPX, S&P 500 index. You have the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones. It's been a great day for all this. But all it takes is one tweet, right? And everything comes crashing down. Everything comes crashing down. And that's why you don't want to put in money that you're not able to lose temporarily anyway. A lot of times people would invest with the mindset of they want to get in today, get out tomorrow, but then you get trapped in that type of investment. Say it went down, right? You want to play a move like this one. So somewhere here, you're like, you know what? It's come down to the support. Let me jump in here and then just hope it's going to recover, right? So it gets to that support line. In this particular situation, it recovered, right? Because boom, we see that that move right there, which was a good support, because you can see it bounced here, and it's been going up, right? And then it came down again, and literally around that same price range bounced again, which is solid. But you take that chance and then you put in some money here, like, okay, it should bounce again. Boom, it bounces. Now you're up. You're like, smart guy, I got it done, right? And then tomorrow you come, you try to do, oh, not tomorrow, tomorrow is Saturday now, but the following week you try to do the same thing again, and guess what? It goes all the way down, blows through support, continues to go down because there's a terrible headline in the news, and now that money is stuck. Whereas you needed that money to pay your rent, or you needed that money to pay your bills, or you needed that money to do something. That's how people get in trouble. Whatever you do, don't make these mistakes. Don't do these things. You have to make sure that whatever money you put in this type of investment, especially in the stock market, is money that you don't need anytime soon. Now, if you're trying to day trade, if you're trying to swing trade, that is really up to you, right? You do as you wish with your money. But personal advice, I prefer the long-term approach. I don't have to worry of the day-to-day volatility. And in fact, on the days it goes down are the days I want to buy. Like today, I just bought Apple, right? Apple went down. I'm like, you know what? I think I like it. I'm okay. I didn't go big, but I bought Apple, right? And the reason why I'm doing that is it's gone down and I'm okay with that. And I'll hold on for as long as I want. Anyway, just wanted to share this with you guys. I hope you found value in this one. I hope you're having a great day wherever you have. Before I leave, in closing, I want to say that you have a great day, have a great weekend, have a great productive day, by the way. All right. I feel like I'm having a productive day. I literally just got back from work not too long ago, and I was like, you know what? It is time to do this. Let's get it done. Let's get on here. Let's connect with people who may choose to watch anyway. And I've done this. I hope that you have a productive day as well with whatever you will do. And I pray that you achieve your dreams, because at the end of the day, I'm a Christian. I pray on a regular basis. And I just want to say that, you know, wherever you find yourself financially, God will see you through. Wherever you find yourself financially, God will see you through. If you need support, if you need help, God will send help. If you need support, God will send the necessary support for you. Sorry about that. If you need courage, God will help you and provide the courage to sustain what you need to do. Investing can be risky, but at the same time, when God gives you the ability to do it, take advantage of it, right? At the end of the day, we have a timeline. Yours is different from mine. Mine is different from yours. And it goes on like that. Do not look at anybody to compare yourself to, because that is a wrong thing to do. But what you want to do is, what can I learn from this person? No matter your situation, no matter your status, no matter your education, no matter your background, no matter what you have or don't have, my goal is always to find what I can learn from you, because we all have something, we all have lessons to teach, we all have experiences that can be valuable. For most of us, and majority of the people, will go to their graves with those experiences, the knowledge, the expertise, the skills, the lives they could have changed. Don't be one of those person. Help somebody out today, right? If it's through your knowledge, through what you know, if it's through helping them out, do something. And I pray that God helps you as well. See you in a future stream or in